There comes a time when that big, quiet house of yours starts to feel a little different. Maybe the stairs seem steeper than they used to, or the silence feels heavier. And then one day, your son or daughter says those words, "Why don't you just move in with us?" It's a question that can bring up all kinds of feelings: relief, hesitation, even a little guilt. On one hand, the idea of being closer to family, of having help when you need it, sounds wonderful. But on the other hand, you might wonder, will I lose my independence? Will I become a burden? What if it changes our relationship? If you've been wrestling with this decision, you're not alone. Moving in with family is one of the biggest choices seniors face, and there's no one-size-fits-all answer. That's why today, we're going to walk through the real pros and cons. Not just the obvious ones, but the things people don't always talk about. The little everyday moments that can make this work beautifully. Or the hidden challenges that might catch you by surprise. Let's start with one of the biggest benefits, the one that often weighs heaviest on our hearts. Pro. You'll never feel alone. There's something priceless about being surrounded by people who love you, waking up to the sound of laughter in the kitchen, sharing stories over dinner, having someone there to notice if you're not feeling well. These are the moments that can turn a house into a home. For many seniors, especially after losing a spouse or close friends, this kind of connection becomes the greatest gift. I remember a viewer named Martha who wrote to me last year. She'd been living alone for nearly a decade after her husband passed, and though she stayed busy, she admitted, "Some days I'd go 24 hours without touching another human being." Then she moved in with her daughter's family. "Now," she said, "even on the hard days, there's always a little hand reaching for mine, my granddaughter's. That's worth more than any privacy." But of course, it's not all sunshine and grandkids, which brings us to the flip side. Con. Loss of privacy and independence. Here's the truth. No matter how much you love your family, living together means adjusting. Your quiet morning coffee ritual might now include a toddler banging cereal bowls. Your favorite TV show could get interrupted by someone else's schedule, and sometimes well-meaning loved ones might start treating you like you're too fragile, taking over small tasks you're perfectly capable of handling, just because they worry. One gentleman, Frank, told me, "My son started insisting on carrying my groceries upstairs. I finally had to say, 'I'm 78, not dead.'" We laughed, but his point was serious. Losing control over your own space and routines can chip away at your sense of self. So how do you balance these two sides? That's where the next big consideration comes in, the one that can make or break the entire arrangement. The importance of clear expectations. Whether you're moving in with your children, a sibling, or another relative, unspoken assumptions are the fastest way to tension. Maybe you assume you'll help with childcare, but they see you as needing care yourself. Or you expect to contribute financially, while they'd never dream of taking your money. This is the time for honest, specific conversations. Ask yourself, will I have my own space, a private room, a separate entrance? What household responsibilities will I take on? Cooking, school pickups. How will we handle disagreements, quiet talks, family meetings? One viewer, Eleanor, shared how she and her daughter wrote up a simple living agreement. Not a legal document, just a list of expectations. "It felt silly at first," she said, "but when my son-in-law started working late and forgot to take out the trash, we could say, 'Remember, that's your job on Thursdays.' No hurt feelings." Now we've just scratched the surface here, because beyond these emotional and practical layers, there's another huge factor to consider, one that could affect your health, your finances, and even your legal standing. But we'll save that for next time. For now, if you're thinking about this move, try this. Sit down with a notebook and jot down what you hope this change would bring, and what worries keep you up at night. You might be surprised what your own heart is telling you. Now that we've talked about the emotional side of moving in with family, the joy of togetherness, and the challenges of adjusting, let's get into the practical details that can quietly make or break this arrangement. Because while love and good intentions are essential, so are the unglamorous things like money, health, and even legal paperwork. Pro. Financial relief for everyone. Let's be honest, living alone can get expensive, especially on a fixed income. Between property taxes, utilities, and maintenance, your house might feel like it's eating your savings. Moving in with family can ease that burden both ways. You save on housing costs, and your loved ones might benefit from your help with childcare, groceries, or even just splitting the mortgage. Take Helen, for example. After her husband passed, she sold her home and used part of the profit to build a small granny flat in her daughter's backyard. I pay a little rent. They get help with the kids, and we still have our own spaces, she told me. It's not free, but it's fair. But here's the catch. Con. Hidden costs and family tension money and family can be a dangerous mix if you're not careful. Maybe you assume you'll contribute to groceries, but your son refuses to take your money. Then resentment builds when the bills pile up. Or perhaps you're counting on selling your home to fund your retirement, but moving in with family complicates things legally or financially. One viewer, Robert, learned this the hard way. He moved in with his son temporarily while his house was on the market, but when the sale fell through, suddenly there was tension about long-term plans. We never discussed what temporary meant, he admitted. The fix: have a frank talk before the move. Will you pay rent or utilities? How much? If you sell your home, how will the proceeds be used? What happens if finances change, e.g., medical bills, job loss? Pro: safety net for health and aging. This is the big one many families think about. If you've had a close call, a fall, a forgotten medication, having someone nearby can be a lifesaver. No more worrying about, what if I can't reach the phone? Plus, simple things like shared meals or someone noticing if you're feeling off can keep you healthier longer. But, con: caregiver burnout and role reversal. Here's the unspoken truth. When adult children become caregivers, it can strain even the closest relationships. Your daughter might love you dearly, but if she's juggling your medications, her job, and her kids, exhaustion, or even resentment can creep in. And for you, it's hard to go from being the parent to being the one who needs help. The middle ground: plan before a crisis. Discuss what level of care you might need, now and in the future. Explore respite care or home health aides to give everyone breaks. Be honest about limits, yours and theirs. The legal side: protect everyone. This isn't just about being official, it's about preventing disasters. For example, if you contribute to home renovations, is there a written agreement? Could moving in affect Medicaid eligibility later? Do you need a tenant agreement or estate plan update? A quick consultation with an elder law attorney can save years of family conflict. Now, all of this might sound overwhelming, but here's the good news. There are more options than just move in or stay put. Next time, we'll talk about creative solutions like multi-generational homes, rotating between families, or even community living that might give you the best of both worlds. For now, if you're considering this step, grab a notebook and write down. 1. Your top 3 needs: privacy, safety, financial security. 2. One hard question you've been avoiding, e.g., what if I need more care than they can give? Because the right choice isn't just about logistics, it's about the life you want to live. There's a moment, isn't there? A quiet hour at the kitchen table maybe, when you realize this decision isn't just about practical things, money, space, health. It's about something deeper, about who you are, who you've been, and how this next chapter might change that. That's what we need to talk about today, because no matter how carefully you weigh the pros and cons, this choice will feel before it ever makes sense. The unspoken weight of this decision. Let me tell you about my friend George. At 82, he was fiercely independent, still mowing his own lawn, still balancing his checkbook to the penny. When his daughter asked him to move in after a minor fall, he snapped, "I'm not some charity case." But later, alone in his house, he admitted the truth. It wasn't about the lawn. I was afraid if I stopped being the provider, I'd stop being the dad. That fear of becoming a burden, of losing your role in the family, isn't just common. It's human. We spend decades being the ones who fix things, who give advice, who hold it together. Letting that shift, it can feel like losing yourself. But here's what George learned, and what I've heard from hundreds of viewers. Love doesn't keep score. Your children aren't waiting to tally up what you owe them. They're offering what you once gave them a safe place to land. The guilt that doesn't belong to you now. Maybe your hesitation isn't about pride. Maybe it's guilt. They have their own lives, you think. I don't want to intrude. I'll tell you what I told Martha, who cried when her son showed her the downstairs bedroom they'd renovated for her. Did you feel intruded on when they were growing up under your roof? Or was it just family? That quieted her, because we forget love isn't a transaction, it's a circle. When fear masquerades as logic, sometimes we dress our emotions up as practical concerns. The grandkids are too loud, or their house is too small, and those might be real issues. But ask yourself honestly, is this the reason? Or an excuse to avoid harder feelings? Try this. Write down your top 3 worries. Then, next to each, answer 1. Is this fear based on something that has happened, or something I imagine might? 2. If my best friend had this worry, what would I tell them? You'll often find your own wisdom waiting there. The gift of letting them love you. Here's the secret no one says out loud. This move isn't just about what you need. It's about what your family needs too. Your daughter might want to know you're safe. Your grandson might thrive having your stories at the dinner table. And you get to leave the deepest legacy of all, showing them how to age with grace, how to accept love as freely as you've given it, making peace with either choice. Whether you decide to move or stay, this isn't just a logistical choice, it's a heart choice. So here's my final suggestion. Light a candle tonight. Look at old photos, the ones where you're holding your child, the ones where they're holding you, and ask the version of yourself in those pictures, what would make us both proud? Because after all these years, after all the roles you've played, you still deserve this. A decision made not just from fear or duty, but from love. The same love that built your family in the first place. To everyone wrestling with this, there's no right answer, only the one that lets you sleep at night, knowing you chose honestly, kindly, and with your whole heart. If this resonated with you, I'd love to hear your story in the comments. And if you found it helpful, pass it along. Someone else might need this today. Until next time, remember, the best chapters aren't about where you live, but how you love. Don't forget to subscribe to keep the circle growing.